history behind the mod subculture?
Again, that's going to vary depending on who you ask. Myself, I put a lot of emphasis on the late 1950s London jazz scene. Of course, every generation wants to define themselves as different from their parents, and it's a cliche to say that it started with mods.
It's more your outlook on life rather than anything. You can't just force yourself to be into it. It's got to be in with you. Like, you can't just decide one day, right, I'm going to do this. It's, you know, your mentality about the whole scene, the people in it.
For me, I think it's about individualism and making yourself the best person that you can possibly be in terms of thinking, clothing, music, your manner, everything really. It's a package deal.
Some of the clothing isn't necessarily branded as such, it's more like the way you look, like, you know, if you're going to get vintage clothing, say, but with brand-wise, generally like Fred Perry, say, Ben Sherman, Penguin.
The fashion is, well, now it's very much crystallised as early to mid-60s, but at the time, people, you know, they were wearing a slightly different thing every week. Everyone back then was having their own suits made, and you'd show off your individuality by choosing your own details in your suit.
He's about to go. You ain't gonna be tight, arse, are you? I ain't had a decent block for days.
What music is popular in mod culture?
Well, at the moment, there's been a bit of a resurgence. We've got young lads in bands playing a lot of R&B, so it's really returned to its roots in that kind of way. But there's still an undercurrent of the influence that the mod revival had. I mean, there's a lot of bands you can find out there who sound an awful lot like the Jam.
Like, you've got soul music, like Northern Soul. You've got like 60s R&B, and then later on, well, obviously you've got the bands around the time, like the Small Faces, the Who.
Well, the scooter is an extension of young people having independence. They had the money to pay for a scooter. You could get one on hire purchase. You know, you had your own transport, so you had freedom from your parents. And those scooters were originally made just for old Italian women to go to the shops and back. I don't think their original designers ever thought that they would take on such a life of their own, let alone, you know, still have really hardcore collectors 50 years later.
Scooters, everyone's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of mostly what I'd say draws the few subcultures together. Like, you've got the scooter alleys, where, you know, you don't even have to own a scooter to go to, really. It's just kind of a collective of all that similar music and the similar like-minded people.
I don't think it was ever as big as what popular culture makes out. It was, at the time, for the tabloids, it was just it was a really good story. You know, they were portraying it like it was the collapse of civilization as we know it. Whereas, you know, the mod-on-mod violence was an awful lot worse than any mod-on-rocker violence going on. But, you know, that's going to be the same with any youth movement.
A lot of it's to do with the way you dress. You've got to be smart, kind of like going to the events, like making yourself there, socialising with all the other people who are into the similar kind of music and everything. Yeah, it is mostly your mentality, I'd say, more than anything.